I'm in the show. Everyone can see and hear me.
How you doing,
Yeah.
brother?
Good, you?
Excellent,
Yeah,
man. Look at
yeah.
us. We both got some sun, it looks like.
Yeah, well, yeah. Month in Mexico.
Nice, dude. Nice.
Yeah.
Wicked. Well, you're back, dude. This has been a while. The show took a bit of a hiatus while you
Yep.
were away, a little bit of a step back. We did a couple live, so.
I don't know. We're planning on things. We're doing things. I don't know if it's all negative. Yeah.
And no, not negative at all, man. And you said we got we do have a few things that we talked about pivoting the show.
Yeah.
A little bit, which is kind of leading into today's episode, right? So we thought, as I wrote in the description, folks, we think we're going to pivot the show a little bit to more focus on the Toronto music scene, at least as a story arc for the next little while, which does a couple things for us, man. I've always been fascinated with the Toronto scene. Born and raised here in Toronto, played in the scene. Dave was here for years, lived here for many years, came out for school, for radio school, which is where we met. And him and I participated in the scene as fanboys, saw many concerts together, everything from divey clubs to mega venues to sold-out C&Es, which is one of the things we were going to talk about today, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I think it makes sense for us to do this. We've got a lot of contacts in the Toronto music scene, and I think we seem to be in the orbit of a lot of Toronto uh, online things that have launched, whether it's the Blast Toronto or other people that are doing things at JoJo, right?
Shout
So the
out to
people that are
JoJo.
doing things that are promoting the Toronto scene, and then seeing people like Lou Pamonte uh, share his experience, and there's people that I've worked with some. I worked with some heavy cats when I was in the Toronto recording studio.
We've already
At
had Doug McClement on the show already, someone else we both got to
Yeah.
cross paths with professionally.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I listened to Lou Pamonte talk the other day, and I don't know him really personally. I think I maybe sort of worked with him a couple times. I was only a chump assistant, and he
That was a
was
big
composer.
ass studio. There was multiple rooms going
Yeah,
on
he
at that
he
time.
did a lot of work at another studio in the building.
Hmm.
But it's cool. I listened to him. He was talking about working with Leonard Cohen, and so a couple Toronto guys there, and well, not Toronto guys, a Montreal guy and a Toronto guy. So it's kind of cool though. But to see the people that are in Toronto that are, and for us to go back and look, in the rear view before we were really aware, like Yorkville, before we were even born, and then to go through, right?
Someone else, I was just thinking along the work tip that you had crossed paths with, if I'm not mistaken, Mark Jordan, right? And Amy, didn't you? Did you touch base or set
I
up
work. Yeah, I
studios or
worked
something?
with. I was lucky enough to work with both Mark Jordan and Amy Sky,
There you go.
and yeah, Mark was really cool. He actually, when I left Toronto, he wrote a reference letter for me, which was amazing. I don't, looking
There you
back
go.
on it, it was like way above and beyond. He didn't have to.
Yeah, he certainly
Yeah,
did.
but Mark's a really cool cat, and it was funny that connects like. Lou Pamonte was talking about Mark, so it reminded me of Mark, and then it was working with my friend Richard on that project, and Richard will forever be faceless on this show. He'll never come on, even though he knows a bunch of people. He's not an internet face guy.
But the
But yeah,
show has
it's
touched base with that connection. Revisit that for the folks, man. What was our connection there? You worked on remixing on a mix,
no, I
right?
was
Was for Molly, wasn't it? Molly's record.
yeah, it wasn't a remix. I worked with
It was a mix.
it was just the mix. It was the mix. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
love it.
recorded, they tracked the album. Richard tracked the album with Steve McKinnon as producer in Steve's house, and I never did go. I should have gone. I never did go.
No,
I
yeah,
regret
but
that.
you
But
got
anyway,
you got
whatever. But the
back
mix, they came back
when it came back
to
to
the
studio.
studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came back to the studio with the multi tracks, and we mixed it there, and that was her self-titled album. It wasn't, I think it might have been her solo debut. Um,
And her
and
record's releasing in June, man. I just saw the ads pop
yeah,
up on Facebook. The next one's coming out in like 3 weeks. So these are more
yeah,
threads that we now, because you and I discussed, we want to try to talk to Lou. We want to try to talk to Mark. We definitely want to
yeah,
try to talk to Molly. And that ties back into what we've already done. This is why I love putting the bows on these things. Is we had Gordy Johnson from Big Sugar on the show, who wrote one of those tracks that Molly
yeah.
recorded and you helped mix on. So there you go.
100 cigarettes. Yeah, yeah, really
Full
cool
circle.
stuff. So yeah, there's those threads, and the idea behind it is that we have enough we have enough connections and we've got enough knowledge about it to really explore the Toronto scene. Because one of the things where we met at Radio College, we had a guy who was our um, I forget what Keith taught us. It might have been production, I believe.
It was
He
it
was
was production. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was an old school radio DJ, and he started off in Aurelia, but then he wound up working at CFNY back when CFNY was really weird, and which was
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
CFNY was, an alternative station before the '90s, before alternative was a thing, when everything was either classic rock or, AOR kind of, you know, Carol King kind of stuff, I
Yeah,
guess, right?
absolutely. Early to mid '80s, they were the only people in Toronto that you could hear that kind of
Yeah, and
music.
I don't know if you remember, it was you and I went and worked with Keith,
Oh,
and so that's where you got an opportunity to work with Jeff Healy, another Toronto connection,
yes, there you go.
and we did syndicated radio shows. But Keith told, I don't know if you remember this story or not, but Keith told us a story where he was had the opportunity to interview Frank Zappa, and it was in the 70s or 80s. Keith was on the air. It must have been the 80s, I guess. I'd have to look up when Frank passed away. I don't remember. I apologize.
Yeah, late
But
late '80s or I think 1990
when he was on the air, yeah. So he would have been
when he
early to mid
passed. When
80s.
he passed, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been early to mid 80s when Keith did the thing. And it was funny because Keith was he was experimental and he thought, oh, Frank Zappa is going to be great. I'll go and I'll do, some hallucinogens. So he decided it was totally, par for the course for radio DJs to do acid and do the show. And so he did it with Frank Zappa, but he got too high and Frank Zappa wasn't a drug guy. Keith didn't do his
No, he's a
research.
teetotaler. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so he didn't do his research. So Frank was thoroughly unimpressed by the fact that this DJ was blasted out of his mind on LSD to the point where Frank Zappa had to tell Keith what buttons to push to hit the commercials or the songs to go on the air. So he tells the story. It was kind of an embarrassing thing, maybe potentially, but he was there, man. He was there in the studio with Zappa. And,
I
pretty
don't
wild.
remember that anecdote, man. I
No,
don't
yeah,
remember.
I do because it was like because it was the thing of he thought, oh, it'll be
Yeah.
cool, we'll be cool, we'll do acid together, and
The
Keith
don't eat
Frank
the
Zappa
yellow
like,
snow guy must be doing some kind of drugs. Yeah.
I don't do drugs. Yeah, yeah, the Jam at Joe's Garage guy. Yeah,
That's funny.
pretty
Great
funny.
story,
Yeah.
brother.
So
Great
those are some good Toronto stories, and then Yorkville is a fascinating spot because it's well before our time, but that's where Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen, Neil Young, they all cruise through that space. And these are artists that have gone on to influence the world of rock and roll and folk since the 60s. There you go. Look at that. Very good. Very good.
It's
Slide in there.
Yorkville,
So now
man,
here's a
right? Yeah.
question. So while we're doing this, we're working out the bugs on StreamYard. So now I got to ask, did you just, because I'm talking, if you click on, can you click on a button that features me as a speaker and minimizes you and the photo? Or what did you do to click that? You know what I'm saying? I'm just
I
trying to figure that
add.
out.
I already had it, so there's a little StreamYard inside behind the curtain, folks.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had us set up as a two shot. I loaded in the still frame from my hard drive, and I just hit send it to the screen, and it automatically shifted to a different view for
Right.
me.
So down at the
So
bottom,
there's probably a couple options I've got in here. I could do that.
yeah. So if I'm talking right now, so I want to be the featured face, right? So see how that worked, right? So I'm talking. So if I want to be the big face, how do we do that? And it's an interesting thing.
Ooh.
See, so I'm talking right now. I've said it 4 times. I should be featured at that because when we get a guest on, there you go. When we get a guest on and we want them to be featured, like let's say we did, let's say Lou Pomonti was kind enough to come on our show and share some stories. We'd want him to be featured. I don't want my,
So this is
ugly
my
looking face on
horrible.
there.
This
And
is
it
my
dropped you
horrible.
out. And now you got no audio.
Oh,
So there you go. So interesting. So we're working out the bugs. Those of us who are following our live stream.
check. Can you
No,
hear
still
me?
can't hear you. So this is a weird thing with StreamYard. It's good to know, right? It's good to work it out with the two of us because when we get a guest on, we don't want to
Check.
be
Check. Can you hear me?
we don't want to be making these technical errors, so to speak. So yeah, but that for those that are watching, that is Yorkville when, Toronto was
Can you hear me
one of the times when
now?
Toronto was super cool. And then the scene went. It's funny because this Keith Elshaw guy, he gave us no, can't hear you. He gave us the whole lowdown on how this Yorkville scene segued into Queen Street West. But what we're gonna do, I think, we're probably gonna have to clock out of this and then log back in. Does that make sense? Let's do
I
that and we'll
think
come
so.
back to it. We'll talk a little bit
Be right
about
back.
Yorkville to Queen Street West.
Pause.
We'll do a pause now. Pause for the cause.
Not yet.
As we used to do when we smoked cigarettes, we're going to play Do You Feel Like We Do?